Alright, so we went ahead and created a program using a loop and a rand range. And now let's go ahead and create a couple more. Okay, so let's make a new file and let's call it coin flip. And the way that this program is going to go is print random coin flips until 5 heads are flipped. Okay, and then let's stop it when 5 heads are flipped. So first of all, we would want to write the body of this loop. Like obviously there's going to be a loop, right? Because we're going to keep on flipping, right? Flip until. So first let's write the body of the loop, and then we can start thinking about how to put it into a loop. So how do we flip a coin? So let's say flip is the variable. It's going to be equal to random dot rand range. And to use this, we need to import random, of course. And a coin flip is either going to be heads or it's going to be tails, right? So what I want to do here on the rand range is flip from 1 to 2, right? And remember, rand range includes the first number, but does not include the second number. So this is going to give us back a random number from 1 to 2. And so I'm going to use the 1 for heads, and I'm going to use the 2 for tails. Okay. So now how do I check what I flipped? I need an if statement, right? The if statements are the checks. So I'm going to say something like if flip is equal to 1, then print something like u, or I can just print heads. Okay. And then I could use else, because there's only 2 possibilities, right? It's either going to be a 1 or a 2. So if it's not a 1, it's definitely a 2, and I could print tails. Okay. Alternatively, you could have said elif, and then you could say flip is equal to 2, right? But that way is longer, and longer is not as good as shorter. So shorter is better than longer. This is shorter, this is better. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this program and see if it actually runs, doing what we want it to do. Prints tails, tails, tails. Oh, finally I got a heads. Okay, so this works, and now let's put it into a loop. And so I'm going to say for I in range 10, and I'm going to put all of this code indented in, so now it's part of the for loop. And now if I run it, then it prints out heads and tails, right? Okay, but our program is supposed to keep on flipping until 5 heads are flipped. So how can we do that? Well, first of all, do we want to use a for loop or a while loop? Right? And so when do we use a for loop? Let me go ahead and write this down. For loops are for when you know how many iterations, right? While loops are for when you don't know how many iterations. Alright, so in this case, do we know how many iterations it's going to take to flip 5 heads 5 times? No, we don't. So we're going to be using a while loop, right? So we're going to say while heads is not equal to 5. Now this heads variable is going to be a counter, right? So how do we create a counter? Well, we create it outside of the loop, set it equal to 0, because we have 0 heads flipped so far. And inside of our loop, we need to change or increment its value. Okay. And when do we want to increment its value? When do we want to change its value? Well, when we flip heads, right? And when does that happen? That happens right here on this if. So I'm going to come here and say heads is equal to heads plus 1. And let's see if it runs. Okay. And ooh, I should probably print here at the bottom, like print you flipped, you flipped 5 heads. So let's go ahead and run that, and let's count them up. Okay, so we get 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 heads. Run it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I flip 5 heads. And so this is a program where we can use a while loop along with a counter and an if statement and also random, to get our program to do what we want it to do.